What's going on, everybody? James Bouligny here for Cover1. This is our final pregame show of the season. The state championships are here. My co-host is here, Ryan Chadwick.
How's it going?
All right. And Nick Thompson should be joining us later. Before we get into any of the games, though, we got to thank our title sponsor, Whataburger.
Whataburger's Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip Sandwich is back.
Chicken strips. Chicken strips. Chicken strips.
Ranch, ranch, ranch. Buffalo. Monterey Jack cheese.
The Whataburger Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip Sandwich. A beautiful masterpiece.
All right, Chadwick, let's get right into 1A football real fast. We got Whiteface and Gordon and Jayton and Oakwood. Let's talk about Whiteface and Gordon real fast. Whiteface is up there in the South Plains, man. Talk about him.
I think it's just exciting that not only did the South Plains get a school up there, but they got two. Unfortunately, it's only in the 1A they didn't manage to get any of their other schools in. But hey, if you want to represent six-man well, the South Plains definitely did that. Now, this Whiteface and Gordon game is going to be interesting because I think Whiteface has surprised a lot of people this year. With that being said, they are going up against the perennial powerhouse that is Gordon, who's just completely dismantled every single team they've played. I think they've fortified everyone except in the semifinals or something like that. But it's honestly kind of like the later 1A game we're going to talk about. And that's kind of what Jayton's done to everybody. But Gordon is going to be a really tough test. And I would give them the edge in this one, but I definitely want to see Whiteface put up a fight and maybe bring home a state championship.
I know you look at Gordon's schedule in the playoffs. They played May first, and May has always been extremely good these past few years. They beat them 56-8. Then they beat Menard 45-0. They beat Jonesboro, who again is also a very, very good team. They beat them 56-6, and they beat Abbott last week 77-36. And Whiteface, they beat Water Valley the week before, and Water Valley gave them a run. And I really feel like this is going to be a really great 1A football game coming up. Might be different than our 1A games from last year. I think, wasn't last year just like a lot of blowouts to start the state championships, Ryan?
I think the Oglesby game was okay. But yes, that Benjamin game was not.
Yeah, so I really think that's going to be one of the better matches. And then Jayton, of course, Jayton is doing the same thing Gordon's doing. And they got Oakwood. Do we know anything about Oakwood? They're like
honestly,
a 5-loss team or something like that. Which, congratulations on making it to state.
Yeah, that's one of those where it's like they barely snuck into the playoffs and then they just went on a run. Like, I don't know if that means that they've just played a very high quality of opponent. Like, I know that your options are severely limited in the 1A because it's not like you can schedule an 11-man school in your non-district. But with that being said, hey, good for them. Like they put a string of victories together to kind of, make it this far. But they're going to run into Jayton, and Jayton is just different this year. I've seen them play. Nick's seen them play. It's one of those situations where someone's always open. They have multiple athletes on the field who can score at pretty much any time that they want. They're not heavily dependent on one or two players. There's like 4 or 5 of them on the field at any time that can score. So I definitely give Jayton the edge in this one.
All right, and that Jayton-Oakwood game is coming up on the 18th at 11 a.m., and then the Whiteface and Gordon game is the same day at 2 p.m. right after the Jayton game. Moving on to 2A. Before we move on to 2A, though, we do have to thank our sponsor, Great American Cookie. Show your Hawk pride with a custom cookie cake from Great American Cookies. Celebrate in style with a treat that's as sweet as victory. Find us next to Cinemark Tinseltown, the Sherwood Way Shopping Center at 4553 Sherwood Way. Great American Cookies, where every occasion is worth celebrating. All right, let's talk about some 2A ball, Chadwick. We got Munster and Shiner and Stanford and who else?
To be honest, I have no idea who
Ganado,
Stanford
bro.
playing.
Ganado.
Oh, Ganado. Yeah,
Ganado.
sorry.
Come on, man.
I was thinking they were 3A for a second.
No.
You want to talk about one of the powerhouses. All right, but let's go ahead and start with that first matchup. Shiner
and Munster
is an incredibly Shiner and Munster. It's going to be a good game, but Shiner's an incredibly talented football team. They actually ended one of our last Concho Valley schools runs last week, or yeah, it was last week, wasn't it?
That was a couple weeks
2 weeks ago. I can't remember, but it was the Junction Eagles, and man, what a season for Junction. Munster's just kind of quietly dismantled anyone that's come up against them in this playoff run. So like this one should be interesting. But in that second game, you want to talk about a barn burner. I don't even know who to pick in this one because both are incredibly talented. We saw what Ganado was capable of when they were a young team against Mason last year. But now they've finally taken that last step, and they're in the state championship now. They didn't stumble in the semifinals. They run a incredibly fast-paced passing attack that's hard to defend. But on the flip side of that, Stanford has the athletes to run with anybody. Nick and myself watched them play against the Post Antelopes, and Post is by no means a bad football team at all, and they just kind of got, thumped, So it's good to see an Abilene school make it, but at the same time, with the rivalry that exists with the Concho Valley, no one's super excited to see that. But at the same, hey, it should be a good one, James.
And there were some, teams in the Concho Valley that went up against Stanford, and they're like, man, they knew who Stanford was. And Stanford just kind of been biding their time because they've been in that district with Holly and Cisco, and Holly's had an incredible run these past few years. But Christian Duran, their quarterback, is extremely talented. And Vega, they have a running back, the senior Vega. He had like 1,800 yards or something on the ground. I think it's a much more rushing attack from Stanford, but they do have the guys outside, Falks and everybody outside to pass, and they can throw the ball really well. And then Vega on defense is just a headhunter back there. And Ganado, they beat Refugio this year, and I think everybody's kind of thinking Refugio was going to go back. And so Ganado is one of those teams that kind of quietly got to where they are, unless you're from Ganado. And then the other 2A game, you got Munster and Shiner. Munster, I think they have, I think their quarterback, Carney, I think he's pretty good, passes pretty well. But I think they kind of run the ball a little bit more. And Shiner, of course, has always been, extremely good in the playoffs. Beating Junction 27-0 like they did. Shiner's going to be tough. That should be a really good matchup, too. I think those 2A games are going to be really, really kind of special. I think these are going to be good matchups for both classifications.
I mean, I would agree, James. And like I said, I'm excited for it. I don't think it's going to be one of those blowout string of openers for the state championships. But yeah, I think one of the 2A games last year was one of the only close ones the entire time. So hopefully we get a bunch of these good games early.
All right, and moving on. Since 1994, Angelo Bolt Industrial Supply has served the Concho Valley for 30 years and counting. Angelo Bolt is the go-to place for fasteners, power tools, air compressors, safety equipment, and everything in between. Chances are Angelo Bolt will always have what you need when you need it. The odd chance they don't have exactly what you're looking for, they'll find it fast. No request is too big or too small for Angelo Bolt, located at 808 Warehouse Road, where customer service is their top priority. Thank you, Angelo Bolt, for bringing us all of our coverage of all things sports in the Concho Valley. All right, let's talk about some 3A football. We'll go 3A D2. Gunter is playing, and Woodville, yeah, Woodville. Oakwood's the 1A team. I really feel like last week with Gunter and Wall, that was probably the state champion was coming out of that game, and Gunter is just a powerhouse this year. They've been a powerhouse for the past few years, and
Two-time defending state champion.
Yeah, no, and they proved it last week. They're down, I think, 25 points to Wall at one point, and they scored, 15 points. Scored 25 unanswered.
I think it was 32-16 at one point.
32-17,
yeah.
So it was 15 points, and they scored 25 unanswered points to get ahead, and just kind of showed why they are who they are. And
James, let's talk about that for a minute, man.
What?
I said, let's just go ahead and talk about that for a minute. Like, Wall scores early in the third quarter, right?
Off an interception.
15-point
Tarpley
lead.
threw an interception.
And then they just don't score again. Like, what happened? You were there.
I think Gunter took away the screen pass, and Wall really wasn't running the ball very well. And Gunter just, overwhelmed them. They had, and the defense, I think the Wall's defense did their job. I think
They
you know,
got them
the
another
ball back.
turnover after that.
On a kick, they got the ball back. On a muff kick, they had a fumble recovery, and they did miss an extra point, and I think they went for 2 a couple times. But if they have those 3 extra points, and then they score on that fumble, that's a tie game at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Gunter
But
just
I mean,
came out of
say what you want,
halftime.
a 10-point loss isn't bad, especially to the 2-time defending state champion. But like, you would like to see Wall hold on to that lead, especially late like that. I mean, say what you want about it only being the first year in that offense, or it being Coach Craig Slaughter's first year as head coach. And like, they put up an admirable fight, right? But like, Wall wins that game 9 times out of 10. No.
No, I think so. I think they line up and play today. I think Wall would, you know, the first play was a 75-yard screen pass to Hagen Barbie, and then 4th down and 4 on the 38, which if it doesn't work out, you can really swing momentum Gunter's way. You throw a touchdown pass. So Wall had the gutsy calls. I feel like they might have just kind of run out of things there at the end, and yeah. I really feel bad for those seniors there, you know, but they had kind of a young team. Yeah, they're losing quite a bit of talent on I think the defensive side, but they are returning their quarterback. They are returning some of their weapons, and I really feel like that, you know, if that game happens next year, it'll be another great matchup. And then I guess we got to talk about Woodville. I think this was the first year they've ever made it like 3 or 4 rounds deep in the playoffs. Like, I think I saw a tweet where this was the first year they made it 3 rounds, first year they made it 4 rounds, the first year they made it to state. I just feel like that experience on Gunter is going to put them over in this one.
Well, so they beat Tidehaven, which is an achievement in itself, right?
Right.
2 years ago, Gunter beat Tidehaven by 40. Last year, Gunter beat Poth by 55. Like last week was the state championship. If I have one solid bet in this entire week at Cowboy Stadium, it's that Gunter is putting Woodville down. Like, hey, if Woodville comes in with the upset, it'll be a huge and feel good story for that football program. But it's just not going to happen against Gunter. That they are going to get their 3rd state championship. And what I want to see from them, I'd actually like to see Gunter just kind of put it to them, because it'll just make me see, like, it'll be a perfect example of how good Wall was this year for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think I said at the beginning of the playoffs, I really thought that the state champions coming out of Region 1, Region 2. So
yep, I would agree.
Gunter and Wall, it came down to Gunter and Wall. And after the way Wall beat Canadian, I was like, well, maybe this Gunter game's going to be... And we discussed it, too. We discussed it with Paul. Like, for like an hour, we talked about, we didn't have Gunter's stats, and we're like, how does this work out? And Wall made it a game, and they were up at halftime, and after that interception and the touchdown, I guarantee every Gunter fan was leaning forward in their seats. They had to rearrange how they were sitting, because they were like, maybe this Wall team's for real. Even Manny Diaz was there, and he asked me, is Wall for real? I'm like, yeah, they really are. They are for real this year. And hopefully they can reload next year and get back to it and get back to Jerry World.
It just proves how hard it is to get to the state championship, because you have to have so many things go right, and then every single week it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. So, I mean, hats off on a great season. But it is one of those, it's like, well, can they make it back? I don't know, man. It is really difficult to make it that far.
No, it is. But, this also kind of gave you a good test to see, okay, what do we need to work on? And seeing Gunter's kicker kick it out the back of the end zone, he's also their quarterback. And special teams is so important. And it proved it when he muffed the kick and Wall got it back and they scored on that drive. Like, everything matters, everything counts, every point counts when you get to that level of play in the playoffs.
Yeah, I will say their new freshman kicker that had to step in to basically be the hero and kick extra points all playoffs. Like, hats off to that young man. Like,
he's a freshman too.
I think Wall's found a kicker for the future.
Yep, I'd get Pierce Jameson out there to work with him, though. He does it for you. He'll help you out.
Hey, he does it every summer, man.
Yep. All right, let's talk about Malakoff and Columbus real fast.
So Malakoff is the defending state champion. but they're coming up against another state champion player on that Columbus roster. And man, I saw a couple plays from him last week, and Grayson Rigdon is for real, and he's going to continue to make plays. But with that being said, Malakoff is the defending state champion. They've made it back to state now, and this is going to be one of those matchups to watch. I think this is going to be an incredibly good game.
This is gonna be
I
like
don't
the
even know
2A
who to
games,
give
I
the
think.
edge to.
I think Rigdon's going to have a game. And what a story for Rigdon, man, to come from the smallest of the small A, the smallest of the 1As, to a big 3A and light up the way he has. And Schobel, their coach, their quarterback, he's his son. He runs a good program there in Columbus, and that should be another really great game there. All right, what about 4A, Chadwick? What do we have in 4A? Salina and Kilgore?
I watched one of the semifinals.
Carthage, right?
Yes, I watched Carthage just absolutely dismantle Brock. Did not see that coming. Of course, this was Brock's first year in 4A.
And they beat Graham. They lost to Graham in the regular season, and they beat Graham to get to this point. So congratulations to Brock on making it where they made it.
Yeah, but and I know that the weather was absolutely awful, right? It was pouring rain the entire game. There were several occasions where I was like, man, I think my phone might actually get broken out here when I was out there filming. Definitely didn't want to risk one of the good cameras, right? But soaked. Everyone was soaked completely through. Everyone was slipping everywhere. It was hard to throw the ball, and it really just played into Carthage's biggest strength, which was just pounding the rock. They like to hand that ball off and watch their running backs get to work. And after a while, they just kind of impressed their will onto Brock's, the defensive line until that rain let up in the second half. But it's like as soon as the rain let up, they just switched and started throwing the ball. And at that point, Brock was just tired. You did see the Eagles try to mount a comeback, but they couldn't make the plays in the end. It ended up being pretty lopsided. But like you said, congratulations to the Eagles for making it that far. But Carthage is for real if they can dismantle a team like Brock this late in the season. So who's Carthage playing, James? So you got the schedule right in front of you.
They play La Vega.
Oh, La Vega. So and that's another team that's kind of romped their way through the playoffs. So again, this is going to be another good matchup.
Yeah, and then the other matchup there in 4A is Salina and Kilgore. Salina's undefeated. They actually beat Gunter earlier this year.
Yeah, Salina is for real. Let's just put it that way.
This year, I think they're in Salina.
I know people don't bet on high school football, but if this was a pro team, then Salina would be a safe bet on the over.
Hey man, we thought Stephenville was going to be that team this year, and we were proved wrong.
Yeah, well, it's just what I said earlier. We're talking about Wall and Gunter. It is really hard to make it back to this point.
Yep. All right, moving on. For any banking needs, go to Texas Bank. Proven local, strong, style customers refer to Texas Bank, one of the most successful banks in the Lone Star State. Texas Bank is a full-service bank with over $2 billion in assets, and they operate in 16 locations from El Paso to Dallas-Fort Worth, including 3 right here in San Angelo, located 2201 Sherwood Way, 1815 North Chadburn, and 4206 College Hills. Texas Bank staff are your friends, family, and neighbors. All right, let's move on to some 5A action going on. We got Dallas Highland Park versus Smithson Valley, and we've got South Oak Cliff versus Richmond Randall. Let's start with South Oak Cliff, who's always, I covered them a couple years back, I think, and they just lit it up, man.
Well, and their school keeps getting bigger, and they just keep winning. They've moved up to division every single year, They end up losing last year's state championship to P&G, and that was a controversial game that could have gone one way or the other. But South Oak Cliff played P&G again, this time in the state semifinals, and they took it to them. It wasn't even close, and I think South Oak Cliff wanted to send a message, and they did. This is clearly the strongest team in 5A this year, and I think that South Oak Cliff is going to gain another state championship trophy in their trophy case there. But you want to talk about a team that is just filled to the brim with athletes. That's going to be an exciting game to watch, purely because they draw the biggest fan base in that area too. That was the game that had over 40,000 people in attendance a couple years ago, and they tried to match that same energy last year. And I definitely see it happening again. Like that should be the most, like, maybe not like the best game to watch, just because like there's some pretty awesome 6A schools in there this year too. But it should definitely be the most electric.
I will say Richmond Randall's undefeated this year. And,
Yeah, like I'm
Sock
telling you,
is,
it's going to be a great game.
Sock is 13-2, and Richmond Randall is undefeated, so it should be another good one. What about Highland Park and Smithson Valley?
I mean, so that's one of those, okay, Dallas school versus Houston school type thing, or Austin school. Where is Smithson Valley?
Kamal?
Oh, okay, yeah. So like that is what you would call out of our coverage area. So I don't know much about these schools, but I know about Highland Park's pedigree. This is a team that was good in the past. They're still good now. I actually was in their neck of the woods watching South Lake Carroll play when I was watching the game that South Lake Carroll won, and everyone had signs out front, like they're excited for it. Like Highland Park hasn't been back in a while, so like this is definitely one of those that's got people excited.
All right, let's move on to 6A. North Crowley, Austin Westlake, South Lake Carroll, Austin Vandergrift.
So which one do you want to start with? Because I got comments on both of them.
Well, let's talk with Vandergrift. Didn't Central play Vandergrift a couple years ago?
They did, and they got smacked.
Well, they're in the state championship this year, so.
Right.
But they're playing South Lake, and South Lake almost lost to Friendship earlier in the playoffs, and now they're at state. What's that going to say about Friendship?
Friendship was for real this year. I mean, they have 3 D1 athletes on their starting lineup.
Their quarterback just went to Tech, right?
Yep, he signed with Tech today, actually, and he made the announcement yesterday. So congratulations to Holden Phillips. He's a preferred walk-on to Texas Tech, and they're going to give him a shot. They might try him out at a couple different positions. His strongest is obviously quarterback. He was nominated for quarterback of the year by Dave Campbell's in the 6A division, and he pretty much tried, and I don't know if he officially got over it with that South Lake Carroll playoff game, but I know he was right up against that single season passing record for Friendship, but completely dominated the 6A All District Awards, and he's a really talented young man. And the guy he was thrown to, Leighton Stone, he's also signed with Texas Tech. He's a 4-star receiver, and they gave South Lake Carroll all they could handle, right? And they played a Longview team last week that, it literally came down to the very end. South Lake Carroll kind of took control early, but Longview battled back. They have a very tough ground and pound team, but when it mattered the most, South Lake Carroll took 9 minutes off that fourth quarter to get into field goal range. They missed the kick, but Longview runs it to the kicker, and so South Lake Carroll gets another shot at it, and then they beat them as time expires. So it could have been a closer state semifinal for South Lake, but if you play like that against Vandergrift, you might have a bad day. But on the other side of that bracket, you want to talk about what was it? North Crowley and who?
North Crowley and Austin Westlake. Crowley beat Duncanville.
Crowley beat Duncanville or DeSoto, one or the other.
Duncanville, I think. Yeah,
Vandergrift beat Duncanville, which crazy. Like everyone thought Duncanville was going back, and then North Crowley beat DeSoto, who also everyone thought was going back. So those are the two biggest storylines in 6A, because Vandergrift took down two-time defending champion Duncanville, and then North Crowley did the same thing to DeSoto. So I was completely thrown off on my 6A game. I thought this was one of the ones that was most dead set. It was going to be, almost a rematch of last year between Duncanville and DeSoto both being there, but not anymore, right? Like, it's good to see Austin Westlake back. They used to be an almost constant at state a couple years back. But you want to talk about one that's going to be just interesting. I have no idea. I have no predictions. Like, I don't know who's going to win. I think Vandergrift's going to take the South Lake Carroll side, and I think Crowley's going to take, and North Crowley's going to take it, but I have no idea, James. 6A's a mystery.
North Crowley beat Duncanville last week, 36-34.
Yeah.
They beat Allen the week before. So North Crowley is for real this year.
They're just, stomping everybody.
All right. Let's move on real fast. We're going to hear a quick word from Jim Bestford.
Right now at Jim Bass, scan our QR code and find great deals on cars and trucks. Right now, you can get $11,000 off MSRP on all remaining 2024 Ford Expeditions in stock.
You can only get deals like this at Jim Bass Ford, Houston Hart and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbus.com, or you can... Hello? Hi, babe. Hey, can I call you right? I'm trying to explain the QR code. Well,
Okay, Chadwick, what game are you most excited about?
Oh, if I had to pick, I think it's going to be that two-way matchup between Stanford and Ganado.
That was my pick.
Oh, well, I mean, like I've watched Stanford play at this point, and like I was blown away by the level of talent they have on that roster. But like I gotta refer back to the 6A teams too, because North Crowley also just absolutely shellacked District 2 6A out of the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that was the biggest beatdown. And I think they beat Permian. I don't know if you got the bracket in front of you, but like that was like a 50-point loss for the Panthers. So immediately made a North Crowley fan in me, right? I'm just
Get over
kidding.
it, Chadwick.
Just a Permian, but like I am looking forward to what the big schools have to offer, because last year they were just beatdowns, right? Like I want to see good 6A matchups. I want to see come down to the wire like the South Lake Carroll Longview game last week. I thought that was an incredibly awesome ending on that 2017. James, your turn.
Well, since you took the Stanford game, the Munster game is really interesting to me. You know, Munster and Shiner. Munster is up there above North Dallas, and they play extremely good football up there, and they've just knocked off everybody. There was a clear hierarchy in that district. They were clearly one. Collinsville was number 2, and Lindsay was number 3. And then the Columbus game has me interested as well. I think the Columbus Malakoff game is going to be really good this year too. And then of course I'm excited for the 1A ball. It's not quite, the playoffs where in early they might have the sideline all zigzaggy up and down because they had to put tape down on the field. That's kind of what I love about 6-man is it's just kind of backyard football almost, Chadwick, you there?
Yes, sorry. Like there's a bit of a delay on these things, remember? But yeah, man, like I'm also want to see if South Plains can bring home 2 state titles. Like I'd like to see, like I know that Dallas is where the best football is played, but I would definitely like to see different state champions than just Metroplex DFW every single year, So
well, you're seeing a lot of them this year though. There's a lot of churning on that. I mean, Duncanville lost. They won last year. I think only 3 teams are going back.
Yeah, but like they just got beat by other DFW schools.
It could have been 2. It could have been 2 teams going back.
Yeah, I think that DFW has a chance to win 6 out of the 12 titles. So.
Yeah.
I think last year they won 9 out of the 12.
I'd love to see. What about next year? What do you think? I mean, we're not getting into next year, I guess. We'll get into next year on the COVER1 Award Show. All right, Chadwick, we'll come back with final thoughts. Before we do, looking for the best buffalo wings in San Angelo? Head on over to the ArcLight Bar and Grill, conveniently located inside the Clarion Hotel at 441 Rio Contra Drive. Their variety of wing flavors is second to none, featuring options like raspberry chipotle, ghost pepper, Nashville hot, sweet heat honey, teriyaki lime, everything rub, and the classic hot wing. Relax and let the ArcLight toss your wings to perfection while you enjoy the largest video wall in West Texas, surrounded by 20 additional flat-screen TVs. Visit the ArcLight Bar and Grill inside the Clarion Hotel at 441 Rio Contra Drive in downtown San Angelo. All right, Chadwick, final thoughts.
I'm gonna mention the Texas Tech bowl game again, since we don't have a college football segment this week. It came out that Baron Morton, the starting quarterback, is not playing. He underwent some sort of injury, and like I can't really confirm anything yet, but I do know he's gonna miss the game. So Will Hammond, freshman quarterback, he's going to get the start for the Red Raiders. We're really going to see what the future of Texas Tech football is going to look like when they take on Arkansas in Memphis. So I'm excited for it. I think it's a good chance for the Big 12 to silence some of the SEC bias. Like the Texas Tech beat Ole Miss last year in a bowl game, and let's see if they can beat them again. So when the SEC likes to talk smack, saying the Big 12 is not a real conference, we can say, hey, you haven't beat us in a long time. Where you at type thing. So the bowl season's going to be interesting.
Look at it this way, Chadwick. If Will Hammond lays an egg, maybe Holden Phillips might get that shot.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. All right. This has been the COVER1 pregame show for myself and Ryan Chadwick. Dick Thompson, Paul Harris, Lucas Bend has been running the board.